Hello. I am here today to talk a little bit about why the grass isn't always greener. I think in the US, we often complain about the state of healthcare, and many of us call it sick care. Uh, but I want to give just a little bit of a different perspective from the point of view of an expat. So we had moved from the US to Munich, Germany, and then we moved from Munich, Germany to Kent in the UK. And, you know, when I first went to Germany, I had a certain expectation. I totally made assumptions about what life would be like there and and about healthcare. And since I'm an integrative health practitioner and health coach, we're going to talk a little bit about healthcare, but I'm also going to share some other findings that I've had. So in Germany, we'll start there. You might have the assumption that every other doctor is a functional medicine doctor or biological medicine doctor, and that they use lots of technology in their practice, maybe lots of testing, maybe easy healthcare access, socialized medicine. So maybe you think that it might be free. But the truth is that when you get to Germany, you have to make a choice of either public healthcare or private healthcare. Now, you could do private healthcare. It costs more than public healthcare. They both cost something. They're going to be a little less than the US, but there's nuances with that. So once you get into a path, you're stuck there. And which is unfortunate if you decide later on that you kind of made the wrong choice. So we went with the public healthcare because we were told that they were pretty much equal. That's not true. Your access to doctors is really limited after taking that path. And so finding an appointment with the doctor could be a bit of a challenge. Not only that, but it was only recent that they um, made digital files of medical files. So up until just recently, absolutely everyone was using paper copies. And now, there's a few organizations that are moving into more electronic medical documents and files, but it's not a given. So it could be hard to kind of transfer information over from one place to another place. And of course, there's always the language barrier. So if you don't have really good German, it might be a little hard to find someone who practices and speaks English fluently. So that's a little bit of a challenge too. The other thing was that the doctors there are pretty conventionally trained. So just what you would expect at more of a conventional medical practice in the States. And uh, German New Medicine, which I know has been kind of floating around a little bit in the alternative medicine space. I could not find a single practice or practitioner in German New Medicine in Germany. So I don't know, maybe it was developed there, but it certainly didn't stick. And naturopathic doctors, super hard to come by anyone practicing biological medicine. You know, very difficult. So it was fine, really. I didn't feel like I was in any trouble. But so just so you know, okay, there's that. The other piece of the puzzle, and I kind of mentioned it in the comments, was that when you go and get an apartment, there's no kitchen, or the occupants there that are there now might be selling you their kitchen. So there is a cost associated with getting set up in an apartment in Germany, which you might not expect. Also, there are no closets. So no closets. Oh, and no lamp fixtures. So you might have lights or maybe no lights, but maybe there's like a wire hanging from the ceiling, and then you have to get your own lights. So to get yourself set up in Germany is actually quite a process and a bit expensive. The other thing too is that if you don't have a German bank account with a special little German e-card, there are some places where you just have to pay for things with cash. So cash is used quite often there. And sometimes at the grocery store, their card readers would break and then you'd have to pay cash. So it was definitely a cultural shift. A little hard for me to navigate coming from the US where everything is electronic, right? You can do everything electronic, use your card, Apple Pay, no problem. All right. So that was Germany. Then in the UK, it's a little bit different. So in the UK, you find your GP. Your GP is based on your region. You might have some GPs to pick from. If you're in a bigger city, there might be several GPs within your zip code. And so then you sign up with them. That's the person that you always go to. And you need to go to them in order to get a referral for someone else. Um, Socialized medicine, not so much. We still pay for healthcare here. So, regardless of where you're at, you're paying for healthcare. It's just the out of pocket expenses could be a bit less. So, here, also somewhat similar. It's hard to find naturopathic doctors or functional medicine practitioners. And if you do find them, they're definitely like out of the whole insurance coverage realm. So it's pretty much conventional medicine, more or less here. And so I noticed that even in London, there's a few health practitioners around that do functional medicine, but there's not a lot of them. And they all charge out of pocket. So found this out. The other thing that I found out is that, um, yeah, there's no kind of there's not a lot of specialists, and it's hard to find specialists. So, if you want an endocrinologist or a diabetes specialist, uh, that you need a referral to, and it could take months for you to see them, maybe 6 months, maybe longer. It's like you're on a wait list, and maybe you'll get bumped. And then communication's very hard. There's an NHS website, and not everyone uses it to its full capacity, so it could be hard to communicate with your healthcare provider. It could also be hard just to get an appointment with your GP here. And then there's no pediatricians here. Those are like specialists, and if you have private insurance, then you could get that paid for, but only with a referral. So your child is always going to see a general practitioner, even though they're a child. So less specialists here. That's what I've discovered so far, which is interesting. Now, couple things I would notice about living here is that there are no screens on the windows, but there's also no screens on the windows in Munich either. So, if you have mosquitoes, they just fly right in. And but I will say this, Munich, Germany is very beautiful. The city is beautiful, beautiful architecture. It's got a great zoo. I love that. Um, and then here in the UK, we're really close to London. So, of course, you've got all the museums. The architecture here is really fun to look at as well. The countryside in both locations, absolutely gorgeous. So, there are definitely some pluses. Also, the cost of food is significantly less than in the US for both Germany and the UK. And I know in both places, I hear all three places, I hear about food costs going up. But yeah, costs for food here, so much less than the US. I cannot believe how much food prices have gone up there in the last 2 years. So always pluses and minuses. In the US, I've always had private insurance. It always costs more. And the insurance uh, usually allowed me to see any specialists I wanted, sometimes without a referral, which was awesome. Could just basically call up a clinic, say, hey, I've got insurance, and there you go. So that's been really nice. But there's always that copay, whereas here, there's not much of a copay. and prescription medications are a lot less as well, though it is harder to get some of them. Anyway, I just wanted to share that there are always pluses and minuses for, uh, living in different areas. But I wanted to point out the grass isn't always greener across the board. And visiting a country could be quite a bit different than actually moving to the country because there's visas to be dealt with. There's all sorts of immigration paperwork. Germany has a stack of paperwork and it's all paper. Sometimes you have to go into offices just to get a stamp and a signature for something. Yeah, and technology is not so it's not so advanced there, and so again, a little hard to navigate. In the UK, a lot easier transition, probably because the language barrier isn't really there, and also because there are a lot more electronic, um, capabilities for the various offices, and so the transition here was a lot easier for us than going from the US to Munich, Germany. So, lots of little tidbits there. I don't know if you're looking to move to a different country, what country is it? Or have you moved to a different country? What was your process like? Were there any surprises that you experienced from a health standpoint or from just navigating moving to that country? And any assumptions maybe that you made about that country and then you show up and then it's like, "Oh, that's not quite the reality that I'm getting." I'd love to hear in the comments. Let's have a little bit of an expat chat. All right. I'll see you later. Take care.